Hi guys, and welcome to the first ever instalment of SARNYPOD. So the first guest we do have today is a very special guest indeed. He is a Sunderland YouTuber. He is a member of SAFC Fan TV, and of course a very good friend of mine is the one, the only, Michael Bowers. How are you, mate?
Oh,
Nailed it. First take.
I know. See how this goes.
How have you been finding lockdown, mate?
Well, I work in a supermarket anyway, so to me it makes absolutely no difference. I'm still going to work anyway. Lockdown, well, to be honest, I'm an antisocial. Am I allowed to swear on this?
Do what you want, mate. Do what you want.
Okay. I'm an antisocial twat, and therefore it doesn't make any difference for me anyway.
So no, I'm exactly the same, mate. Well, I'm a key worker as well, so it hasn't made a difference to me either. And I don't like to go outside anyway. It's not good for me.
Well, I'll just point out you keep doing what you're doing because I know you work with is it people with learning difficulties or mental difficulties?
Yeah, challenging behaviours, yeah.
That's it. Yeah, well, keep doing what you're doing because you'll be keeping everybody going at the moment.
And you're giving everyone the meal deals that they need. So,
oh no, give them the reduced items and £3 meal.
Oh, brilliant! Right, okay, let's get off the meal deals. First thing I wanted to talk about really was what made you start YouTube. Of course, if for those of you who don't know, Michael is a Sunderland YouTuber. He does reviews, post-match reviews and stuff like that after Sunderland games, usually, amongst other things, which I love. I'm a massive fan of.
Thanks.
No problem. But yeah, so basically what made you decide to pick up your phone and start recording yourself after a game?
Well, it was a true Geordie, funnily enough. Not directly, but I was inspired by him. I've always felt, and actually one of the things you talked about in your videos recently, I think, was the attitude of we'll get rid of our good players and then sell for someone who's slightly not as good. But obviously, the more you do that, you're going to end up with shite. The problem for me was that the attitude around Newcastle, and that was what True Geordie was kind of spouting on YouTube, was that, we're underachieving given the size of our club and the fan base. We deserve a lot more than this. And I thought he was actually bang on the money. I don't watch much of his videos anymore, but when he used to do proper Newcastle, especially when he got pissed off, it was hilarious. But when you look at, well, people say that about my videos, funnily enough, it's actually But I had that attitude with Sunderland, and I didn't feel like enough people were questioning. No. Hang on. Why is a club with one of the biggest stadiums in the country that holds nearly 50,000 people, one that's got an incredible fan base, one that, in the Premier League was at least averaging around 40,000. You can say, give away tickets for free. Fuck off. We weren't having anything to shout about whatsoever. And we were settling for fourth bottom all the time. And with all due respect to clubs like Watford, Burnley, Palace, Stoke, Swansea, Bournemouth, Queen's Park Rangers, Hull City, there were a lot of clubs that were overtaking us. And I thought, no, this isn't good enough. We should be competing. We should be competing at a higher level than all of these clubs. So I just thought, I debated on doing it for a while. But then I just thought, you know what? Screw it. Go out and do it and see if people respond to it. Yeah. And people see it. And obviously it's took a few years, but somehow I've managed to get over 1,000 subs, and there you go.
Great, mate. Yeah, you're doing great. And like I said, I think, and I've told you before anyway, I think the sun shines out your arse. Do you know what I mean? I've been watching you. I mean, I'm sure it doesn't, but
it definitely doesn't.
But I've been watching you for a long time now. I think you were probably the first sort of Sunderland YouTuber, if you want to call it that way. And I loved watching your discussions after the game. I still do. So well done for that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's not any games at the minute to discuss at the moment, is there? Obviously, with what's happening with this pandemic, but I appreciate that a lot though, and especially considering that I'm pretty sure, I'll put it out there, out of all the Sunderland YouTubers, I'm probably the least popular in terms of subs because I'm too lazy with all the visual shit. Using back MFC, even though he obviously hasn't put up videos for a few months now. And so, Nathan, if you're watching this, can you put some vlogs out, please? So I want to watch him get shit-faced and swear at Jack Ross or something.
No. I've enjoyed the break from him, to be honest with you.
I kind of have, but I'm at the point now where I would like to start. I think it's the social aspect. I think it's the social aspect I miss now more than anything.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Because everyone, of course, everyone has their own rituals before games. The routines, and once you get rid of a routine, you start to think, what's the point in living? As depressing as it sounds, you need a purpose, don't you?
Well, exactly, yeah. It's like even as however shy Sunderland have been, it's like, what do people who don't like football do on a weekend? Like, what do you do? Like, I used to be one of these people. I wasn't into football whatsoever, but when I've got into it properly, I'm like, good God, what have I been missing? Oh yeah, I've been missing Darren Bent sending us down to League One. Great.
Oh God.
You know,
No,
but like,
not on this podcast, mate. Not on this.
Okay, no, we'll discuss that. But you know, it's like, out of all the Southern YouTubers, I'll probably put the least amount of effort visually into my videos because I'm too lazy for it. But it's also, and that's one of the reasons. One of the tweets you put out a while back was funny. It was something like, "Tell me something you want to know," and I think you tagged me in and said something like, "How does Michael Bowers 15 manage to put his dog of the match reviews within 15 minutes of full time? I want to know, damn it, how do you do it?"
No, that's very true. I can remember that. I think it was a picture of a girl who was sitting in quite a promiscuous position.
I see a lot of
what you want. I was like, I just want to know how the second the final whistle goes. If I can't make it to the game, I watch it at home by other means. And I'll be sat there watching it, and the second the full-time whistle goes, my phone will buzz and say Michael Bowers was uploaded. I'm like, how is he doing this? How has he done a full-fledged review literally the second that whistle has gone? And it's a good review as well. Do you know what I mean?
Well, put it this way. It isn't rocket science, actually, funny enough. All I literally do is just be antisocial again. Go and find a secluded area so people can't interrupt me. Record, use me data, upload, sorted. That's the one reason I do that is because I feel like that's the, if I get, as cheesy as it sounds, maybe sounds like I'm being competitive here, but I think everybody else is going to take more time doing videos because you're going to put more effort into editing and visuals and whatnot. Whereas for me, it's quite just be the first one out there and just do a reaction and not to get it out of the way. I think it's best sometimes when it's fresh in your mind and the game's just happened. It's good off the cuff so I can actually just get it on there. And I'd like to think I'm quite good at organising my thoughts relatively quickly after a game.
I think that's what is a big attraction to you. You can see that what you're talking about actually means a lot as well as what you're saying makes sense, if that makes sense. Because you're definitely a very passionate person, aren't you, Michael?
That's to say the least, yes.
But yeah, 100%. I get where you're coming from with the whole trying to get the video out first type thing, because I will never leave it more than 24 hours. Because if I'm working, I can't physically get
that's fair. Different.
But I think it more so relates to me with FIFA, because when the first, obviously when FIFA comes out, the next edition of FIFA, I need to make sure I'm the first person to get a Sunderland career mode episode out when the new FIFA comes out, if that makes sense. Otherwise, I will go under the radar and it'll screw me over big time. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
I get that. So, so I do get that. But anyway, so on to the next little thing, you kind of did touch upon. You did say that it took you a while to become a football fan and you didn't know what you were doing with your life beforehand. So basically, when did you become a football fan and a Sunderland fan, and how did that come to be then?
Well, my attitude beforehand was, why are footballers getting paid so much money to kick a ball when anybody could do it? And that's one aspect of that I do still kind of hold by, that I think footballers do get paid a bit too much money when there's positions who work, like people yourself who work with people who've obviously got learning difficulties or challenging behaviours, and people who work like firefighters, NHS staff, police forces, and so on, that I feel have the right to earn more than footballers because they're contributing a bit more to society. Obviously, since then, I've now realised that it takes a little bit more than just kicking a ball around. There's there's a lot of different things the academies do. There's a lot of different things that behind the scenes do, like rehab, different styles of training, recovery, and all this, and like dietary stuff, like physically preparing yourself, because obviously it's an intense sport when you're playing for like 90 minutes. But for when I got into a fan, it was probably 2011. Okay. And it was when Sunderland beat Chelsea 3-0 at Stamford Bridge under Steve Bruce. I remember watching that game and how passionate I was with a Sunderland fan, funny enough, and she was getting quite passionate about the game. And I was like, oh, actually, this seems all right. And a few of my mates were already, of course, mates at that point were already football fans anyway. So I started going to a game, started going to a bit more, and decided, you know what, this is all right. We're in the top 10 of the Prem. Let's get a season ticket. Then I quickly realised not to expect that every year.
So it's your fault since then we've been on a gradual downfall.
It's my fault we've gone in the shit. I will quickly point out, though, and I'm going to call him out on here. One of my mates, Paul Wilson, who I think you've met before, you've seen him. Every time he seems to, unless it's with me, which is really annoying, unless it's with me, every time he goes away, Sunderland tend to win. And he didn't go to Wembley on either occasion last year.
Oh,
so it's his fault to go up. Sorry, it's his fault. Check a trade I'm not asked about whatsoever. Playoff final. Screw you, Paul. It's your fault we didn't go up and we're still stuck in League One because of you. But
I can't wait to see his comment down below later on then.
Oh, he will. He'll just go lol. Something like that. He's just like mild-mannered person you can think of.
Right. Well, okay, we've got that over with. Now, the downhill part. What are your thoughts on this season?
Oh, God. Are we having to talk about Sunderland? Oh, Christ.
Okay. I'm sorry. It has to be done.
Yeah, it does. People probably watch it mainly for this bit alone.
No.
I don't... Obviously, being in League One is an absolute disaster again. It's not like, being in it in the first place is terrible. Not getting out of it, being in it for a second season is pathetic. Getting into it in a third, I'm kind of the opinion that next season, if we do not go up, I think we're going to be stuck in this for about 5 or 6 years. I think eventually we will get out of League One, and I don't mean going down to League Two before anyone comments that. I mean, obviously getting forward. What can you say? Your videos have covered a lot of it. But this season, I'm not surprised the season ended on points per game. What I am annoyed about, though, is why did it take the EFL 2 months to make that simple decision when that was what they were going to reach anyway? Why couldn't they reach that a month earlier? I don't get it.
I feel like regardless of what solution they come up with, which I think we both have touched upon, no one's going to be happy with the solution they come up with. You're not going to be able to please everybody, which is very true. But I suppose it hurts just that little bit more when you're 3 points off the top two. Do you know what I mean? That's what hurts the most. But that doesn't mean, like I've said, that I do think we would have gone up or even got into the playoffs, because which I was going to go on to next, I don't think we would have gone up had we carried on. I don't think. I think the performances in the form we'd gone into, it was that bad before this had hit us, that I don't think we would have been able to climb out of it in time. So what do you think? Do you think we would have or would not have gone up?
I think we would have made the playoffs. We probably wouldn't have won them, though, because we seem to be rubbish for whatever reason. But I just think that it would be so typical if we got into the playoffs and we won the final at Wembley and no fan was there to see it. That would have just been so something.
Imagine. I would be.
We won at Wembley. Did you go? No, sorry.
Whilst I'm sat in your bedroom.
Oh God, imagine that. So I'd have taken. Don't get me wrong, but no, I don't. I think we would have made the playoffs. I think people saying wouldn't have made the playoffs. I think that's a bit stupid because the league was far too open to say we wouldn't have made the playoffs.
Yeah.
And the thing that kept me going was the fixtures we had left, because apart from Rotherham and Peterborough, we didn't really have anyone who was good.
That's true.
Good relative to League One. Obviously, anyone can beat anyone on the day. Like Blackpool, underachieving probably with the side that they have. But I'm only Rotherham and Peterborough were the only two teams we had who really had something to play for left. If you look at one of the big things is I don't think we would have gone in the top two because if you look at the Gillingham and Bristol Rovers games, and I'm still of the opinion that those two games cost us promotion, because had you held on in the 96th minute against Gillingham, which you should be, and then if you go and a team that tries to go up in second doesn't go to a very out of form Bristol Rovers team and get outworked and lose 2-0.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We were battered at Bristol Rovers as well.
It was difficult, wasn't it? It was ridiculously cold. Well, just think, I went down there. I paid money and spent all that travel to go down to Bristol.
I feel so sorry for you.
And other people deserve it more than me because I don't go to as many away games. But honestly, I was just looking at it and thinking, I've took time off work to watch this. Fuck this shit. Honestly, I was obviously saw it on SCFC Fan TV. I'm not the type of person who likes to interview people, but I just thought, I'm going to put up a rant here because I felt this is something. But on the points per game thing, though, and I saw it, I think Craig Johns from Chronicle Live said this, that if we'd beaten Gillingham and beaten Bristol Rovers, we'd be going up in second instead of Rotherham right now. So, and everyone goes, exactly, and everyone goes on about that run before Christmas. But for me, I don't blame that specifically because we had enough time since then to change it and turn it around.
I think it was a frigging miracle in the first place that we are where we are. Because if you look at the performances that we had and the results we had, particularly like you say the one before Christmas, how on earth we were still in the top 10, 11 by that point it's mad. And I think it just shows inconsistencies of other teams in the
I
league.
couldn't believe it. Really couldn't believe it. Look at Ipswich. Ipswich were running away with the league at that point. Now I thought for certain they were going to go on and win the league, or at least finish top 2. And they finished something like 11th. You know, I really couldn't.
Mad. It's crazy.
It was a sign of how shite the league was that we were even remotely anywhere close to top 2 in the first place. But ultimately, whether people say we deserve to go up or not isn't the point. We should still have been given the chance to try to go up. But look, Wycombe, for example, voted on points per game, and they jumped from 9th to 3rd, and I don't blame them for that. If we were in that situation, we'd do exactly the same thing. What they shouldn't be doing, I don't think Wycombe should be allowed to play in the playoffs now, though.
Shouldn't. I was just about to say, if we were in their position, of course, I'd say don't play, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it's still dodgy as hell that they're still playing in the semi-finals of the playoff. It's so dodgy. It just doesn't sit well with me at all.
You know, and for me, I don't particularly think that. I don't think Wycombe have. I think Wycombe have hugely overachieved with the squad they have, which all power to them. They've done really well, but I think Fleetwood have got a better side than them, and I think I'll be amazed if Wycombe end up beating them. So watch Wycombe win the playoffs. I've said that, but it's all going to happen. But yeah, look, for this season, we didn't deserve to go up, obviously, but it's left me in two minds about Parkinson. I think I'm more Parkinson in than I don't know if you want to talk about Parkinson. But actually, what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on Phil Parkinson?
On Parkinson, it's I've been very up and down with him. I think, of course, when he first came, he definitely wasn't a very luxurious appointment. But I did think to myself,
no, definitely.
I thought, obviously, he has the experience in these leagues. He's done the job in the league before. So he obviously has the nous. He has the brain for it. But it's been very inconsistent. I think he has managed to get a lot of players who weren't necessarily performing. Again, it's a results game, and he hasn't got the results that we needed. So for me, if we were to do a whole new start, if we are to get new owners, which is a whole different thing, a whole different topic, which I'm not even sure whether I think we should touch on, because we're going to be here all day with the owners.
I think we should. I think it'd be really funny to talk about.
Do you think? Right, but if we are to get new owners as well, I would probably want a new manager as well. To be perfectly honest, I'm not 100%. I'm not screaming Parkinson out, but I just think if we are to do it, I would want to start.
Will you say on the fence with him? Is that a better phrase?
Probably. I would say I'm not screaming for him to lose his job, but
I think I wouldn't be extreme one way or the other at the moment. I think that before Christmas, I think it would be hard pressed to find many Sunderland fans that wanted Parkinson, because I don't care what anyone says. Yeah. People can say our squad's shite. It shouldn't have been 15th in League One. I'm not having that. No. The squad we have is a top 6 squad, in my opinion. What's stopping it being top 2 is a consistent goal scorer.
Absolutely.
But, for me, Parkinson's a funny one, because I'm probably more Parkinson in slightly than Parkinson out, just because Parkinson, in theory, should know what it takes to get out of this league. Yeah. But in order for that to happen, he's got to be backed, though. He's got to be adequately backed. And I'm not talking about splashing 500k on a player, because I'll be amazed this summer if there's any money spent, or hardly any money spent on outright transfer.
So you mentioned a moment ago that you think that the only thing holding us back is a goal scorer, which I haven't actually written this down on my notes, but I think we should talk about it. I think it'd be quite fun. If we are to bring in a striker for League One for the coming season, whether it's behind closed doors or whatever, who would it be? Who would you want us to bring in?
There's two names that scream at me. One's a free agent, and one is someone who I think we could get on loan, but he's...
Can I guess who it is?
Free agent. You probably guess who it is.
Okay, so the free agent is going to be Nanjale.
Yes.
And the other one is from Bristol, Clark Harris.
Well, no, that wasn't... No, but he is someone I wouldn't mind, actually. Quite funny, because well, first of all, I mean, I know there was a few people that said they didn't think he was very good. Was like, have you seen Charlie Wyke? That's all I'm going to respond to that. The other one I was thinking of was Tyle Walker from Nottingham Forest. But
would he come down to League One?
Well, that's what I was going to say. He's getting into Forest's first team now, though, isn't he? Or he's getting into the squad. He came down to League One last season for Lincoln, and we're a much bigger club than Lincoln, with all due respect. But if he's getting into Forest's first team, that's probably a slightly unrealistic one. He's not going to trade the Championship for League One if he's starting in that league.
I think if he wasn't getting games at Forest, then that would have been a very good shout. That would have been a very, very good shout.
I mean,
it wasn't something that, because he did go down, like I said, like you say, he did go on loan to Lincoln last year. And usually, if you go back up to Championship, you wouldn't expect him to go straight into the first team like he did. And I think he has been performing for Notts Forest. So, yeah, but that would have been a very good shout. I would have loved to have him. That would have been great.
I mean, I don't expect that one. But I think Clark Harris, I mean, look, I had someone argue with me constantly on Twitter about Clark Harris isn't very good because apart from this season, his goal record's been poor. Okay, and then my counter-argument was, well, a year ago we wanted Freddie Ladapo, and his record prior to 18-19 wasn't very good.
Yeah.
So, well, Freddie Ladapo is someone I probably would have. Now that Rotherham have gone up, it's pretty safe to assume Wyke is not going to cut it. No. And I'm almost past the point of caring about Will Grigg. But Ladapo is someone that I think really we should be targeting for, even if it was a loan deal, but it depends if Rotherham would accept that.
Well, I think what a lot of people, particularly on Twitter, as you'll see, and I get into a lot of arguments with people on Twitter about this, is that people tend to linger so much on stats and statistics, and it doesn't matter because, like you said, my counter-argument to people who argue against players who I'd like, they say, oh, well, if you look at his last season, he only scored 3 or 4 goals or only did this. But I'd say, well, look at Will Grigg. He was scoring everywhere apart from when he come to here. Do you know what I mean? If a player looks like they have the attributes, for example, look, Nangele, who was great this season, he scored, 15-odd goals for Blackpool or whatever it was. Before that, his goal scoring record wasn't great, but it doesn't mean he doesn't have the attributes. He's strong, he's quick, he's good in the air. It doesn't mean he couldn't help us. Scrap it. You need to give players opportunities and chances, regardless of what the stats were. Does that make sense?
Well, exactly. But it's also about signing players who've got the attributes to the way that your team's playing. So, in theory, Charlie Wyke should be the only reason Charlie Wyke is playing is because he seems to suit the way Phil Parkinson wants to play.
Yeah.
I think Wyke is almost a false 9 in the way that he holds the ball up and attempts to bring Maguire and Gooch into play because them two are the ones who are scoring the goals. My issue is that couldn't we have, say, for example, kept Lafferty? I think Lafferty could do that, and I think he's got more technical quality.
Yeah.
But, is it down to wages? Is it down to, like we Philly alluded to on one of the live streams we did the other week, is it alluded to the finances of the situation that it's cheaper to keep Wyke and it is to let go of Lafferty? And in which case, fair enough. But I just can't see. I don't think Wyke offers anything.
He doesn't.
He's
a very frustrating player. Yeah, I think a lot of the time we tend to, sort of pay a blind eye to how bad he actually is because we want him to do well. Because, at times where he'll go through a phase where he chases down balls and you can see he's really putting his heart into it, but he just isn't.
He tries.
Yeah. So everyone just says, oh, well, he's been a little bit better this. When in reality, if you look at it ruthlessly.
Yeah, no, it's like, he's not good enough.
No.
And it's a shame, really, because I can see he puts. The only way I would keep Wyke, I think Wyke could be a handy player to bring on in the last 10, 15 minutes of games if the other team's in the ascendancy. And Wyke could be a shithouse up front and actually literally attract challenges from other players and win free kicks. The only way I could see Wyke being remotely useful in Sunderland's team, but it is. I will point something out in Wyke's favour, though. He's not a cunt, unlike James Vaughan. So
that's a fair point.
You can bleep that out if you want to, but
that's right.
You know what it is. I think Wyke at least does seem to care, whereas Vaughan had the audacity when he scored like 2 goals in 20 games in the Championship, and he cupped his ears after scoring a diving open header into an empty net against.
I know.
What? Who do you think you are, mate?
He's a band.
So Wyke at least isn't that, but there you go.
Right, so leading on next up, it's probably a difficult one because we've basically just said how bad we've been this season. But this would be very interesting because I know that my decision, and I haven't spoken about this on the channel for this question, is probably going to be slightly controversial. But who is your player of the season for Sunderland this season?
Put us on the spot. Actually, as soon as you started talking, I thought it might be this question. Who's been player of the season?
For you?
It depends. But that's what I'm trying to think, because I'm trying to think who's been consistent enough to catch my eye and say, actually, yeah, they've been. If I had to pick anyone, I'd probably pick Jordan Willis.
Oh, you would? Okay. That's good.
Yeah, I think I was debating with Hume, but Hume at the start of the season was very poor. But that's probably because Jack Ross was leaving him hanging out to dry in a system that doesn't suit him.
Okay.
I would have said Maguire. It's a funny one. I would have said Maguire in terms of goal scorers or in terms of attackers. But the problem for me is that I think Maguire, on some levels, on some days, he's awful. And then other days, he's great, which is probably why he hasn't been playing higher than League One. Mm-hmm. But I'd probably say Willis has been our most consistent player that's played enough games for me to judge on that.
Yeah.
But you probably said somebody that I'll probably end up kicking myself that I haven't
No,
thought of.
no, it's someone you've just mentioned, and that's Denver Hume.
Yeah, I think that I really like him a lot.
Yeah,
I like Hume a lot.
and the reason I say that is because, you know, and he has been made a bit of a scapegoat in the second half of the season. But if we do remember, as badly as we played throughout the first half of the season, he was our only shining light. We weren't playing any form of attacking football. He was the only player, as a young lad from left back, he was our only attacking threat. He was dragging us single-handedly up the pitch, regardless of whether results were going right or wrong. He was, for half of the season, he was our only decent player. And then because it was the first half of the season and not the second, people easily forget that. And I think we start to improve performances, then Denver Hume starts to blend in a little bit. So then people slate him a lot easier. And I think it's unfair on him. So
I agree.
Take the first half of the season into consideration, he's my player of the season, hands down.
Yeah, I would say that Hume is one of the. I'll give Hume young player of the season then.
All right. Okay.
If go along by the club. No, I really like Hume a lot. I think that obviously the one area that he probably could deal with being better is his final third delivery and crossing of the ball.
Oh yeah.
But that's going to come. He's only like what? How old is he? 21, 22?
About 22, 23, something like that. Yeah.
Or something like that. But either way, he's relatively young for footballers at the moment, and I just think people. You're right. I think people do tend to forget. Yeah. It's one of the reasons, for example, just going on a tangent, it's one of the reasons why I didn't think Jack Baldwin was as bad as people said he was, because I thought before the Coventry game, I thought for the first 2/3 of last season, he was one of our best players. And I thought that
him. I really like Jack Baldwin.
You know, exactly. The only problem was that I think once he made a mistake, he tended to dwell on it too much. And
it was 100% a confidence player, Jack Baldwin. You could see that. And I think Jack Ross actually had an interview only a month or two after we signed, saying, he has struggled to, I don't know whether it's to adapt to the area or his family or whatever, but he was definitely a very confidence-driven player. But yes, so that's pretty much everything, to be honest with you, Michael, other than one more thing.
Which is the thing you don't want to
talk about. Stewart in or Stewart out? Donald in, Donald out.
I think, Joel, we've rushed through everything else so we can spend about half an hour talking about this topic. Okay. Yes, unfortunately, as much as it does actually pain to say, I am Donald out.
Yeah.
And it's. I know, obviously, you've recently really gone anti-Donald, which I don't blame people for, by the way, because there's so many different things. The 20 million thing, the season cards thing.
Yep.
And it's, for me, I think the first season that Donald Methven were here, I don't think there was much more they could have done in terms of trying to get the club on a even footing, so to speak, given the mess they inherited, and it was a mess that they inherited. Mm-hmm. But the job's far too big for them, though. That's the problem. And if Donald is taking £20 million statements, like deals out of the club, and is benefiting himself over Sunderland, mm-hmm. and he's, the season card thing speaks for itself. If he's stopping us, if his asking price is stopping us from getting new owners, then he's as every bit of a chancer. Unfortunately, is what people say he is, and I don't get. That's
what infuriates me. I mean, how he has any right to ask for money in the first place, it bewilders me, because he's paid for the club. He's bought the club with the club's own money, first and foremost. He's taken money out of the club. He's put nothing into the club. How the hell can you justify asking for 30, 40 million for something you've paid fuck all for in the first place? And that's what pisses me off. And it could be him. It could be his stubbornness that prevents us from getting a new owner in and pushing the club forward. And it could be him.
Yeah. Well, the thing that annoys me the most, in the context of this situation, Donald has got no right to ask for money if he barely paid anything for it.
Yeah.
In general, 30, 40 million pounds for Sunderland should be considered a bargain, in my opinion, given the size of the club and everything that's there. But I suppose the argument is you're not just going to pay 30, 40 million. You're going to have to pay an awful lot when we're in League One to keep things relatively ticking over.
Yeah.
So, if we'd sold it to FFP, for example, what would have been happening from there? And don't get me wrong, if we sold to FFP, I wouldn't have expected dozens of millions to be ploughed into us when we're in League One. Of course not.
No.
One, you shouldn't need to spend that much money anyway. And two, it's not good business. It's not a good business practice. Whereas at least in the Championship, Sunderland would be a much more attractive proposition to other investors or buyers.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. And I think there are aspects that there's different ways and routes this could go down. If we're kind of hoping, or there's at least a section of supporters that are hoping that Donald and Methven and whatever, they go bust, and it does automatically hand the club over to them. So then there still is the prospect of having the American type takeover, which I don't even want to talk about because that breaks me out that didn't happen anyway.
Yeah,
but yeah.
The funny thing is though, like, well, wasn't there a clause in there that said that if they, I mean, I don't know if it's since expired or the deals have changed, that if Donald and Methven didn't pay the loan money or whatever it was back, that they get the club anyway. But I don't know what's gone on with the finance.
Yeah, if they default on payments, but I don't know whether I probably have to look back into this because it was a while ago since I made a video on this. But I don't know whether that was they are entitled to assets of the club rather than the club itself, if that makes sense. You know, like the academy, stadium, and stuff. I'm not too sure whether it was. I could be wrong. I could be absolutely wrong there. And if it is the case,
no, definitely. No, sorry. Here's one for you. What do you think about the state of the academy?
Oh, it's a joke. It's a joke. We have the best quality academy facilities with the worst players in them, the worst staff possible. And even if you look, of course, so half of the academy staff, if you look into them, they have had some kind of association with Eastleigh. It's this, which is of course Stuart's previous club. So he's got, and I've said it time and time again, there's so many vital roles within the club that have been handed out to mates, and it's been treated like, you know, this is just a laugh for his mates to come and hop on board. You know what I mean? And as you say yourself, it's a massive club. This isn't Eastleigh.
Well, the biggest thing for me with the academy is we keep what was all the harping on about. Like, if you listen back to Charlie Methven interviews on podcasts and everything going, that he harped on about the importance of having a Category 1 academy. Yeah. Well, if you're going to sell all your best young assets, then what's the point of having running costs of a Category 1 academy? You might as well go to category level Z and at least not have to spend it. I don't understand. Like Ballymumba, for example, I bet you it's probably because I bet you we'd be forcing Ballymumba out of the club. That would not shock me. That would not shock me whatsoever if we're forcing them out of the club. And Norwich sees something. Go on. I'll talk.
I was just going to say I haven't even spoke about Ballymumba on the channel, and for me, obviously, as annoying as it is,
I've got his exclusives, lads. I've got him to react.
Got the exclusive, but yeah. So it has been reported around 350k in it from Norwich. So it's been accepted, and for me, I think personally is dodgy, and this might be a bit far fetched, but I think with Donald and Methven it isn't. I think that's been accepted to refund the fans for the season cards. Because if you look, no one's been refunded yet, and it's been weeks since. And I think that's why that's been accepted. Because Ballymumba at 350k, come on, man, that Matteson who went from Rochdale to whoever he went to the other week.
Wolves. I think it was Wolves.
Yeah, someone like that. And he went for $1 million, a right back. So you've got a central midfielder, a young lad who's had double-figure caps in the under 21s or 20s, whatever it is, for England. For 350k, piss off, man. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. You know what I mean? So
no, that's spot on. That's totally spot on. Your theory would not shock me at all. I don't think that's very far-fetched at all. It could be that, 350k, but surely then, and I always made this counter-argument that if you're in such a situation where you need money, shouldn't you be fighting every tooth and nail to get every penny that you can get?
Yeah.
Surely. Absolutely. Like Ballymumba, for example, I mean, I think Ballymumba should have been playing a bit more personally. I think Jack Ross introduced him, maybe because of lack of numbers, I don't know, introduced him, and then conveniently we never saw him in League One again. So if we're at the point for Ballymumba, I think Norwich see something in him, albeit Norwich are about to get relegated, but they'll still be in a league higher than us, a much higher standard than what we're going to be playing at. Yeah. So they see something in Ballymumba. So surely wouldn't it make more sense, especially when we're going to need to squad numbers anyway, to have Ballymumba be part of that squad? You know, 350k, that is an absolute joke, that figure. It went from 500k to 350 in the space of 2 days.
Yeah.
And that's what you said about the refunds as well. You know, what's going on with that? We said 2 weeks ago, we're working with Ticketmaster to start the refund process. Nothing's happened since. We haven't had any official confirmation or anything.
No, it's and in the meantime, people's direct debits just restarted again, didn't they?
I know, and you think, how do you not know? How do you manage to? Oh, yeah. I'll tell you another one. You know when you were talking earlier about giving the job to mates and everything?
Yeah.
You could just describe the master of puppets, Jim Rodwell, who I've really... and I was one that actually tried to stick up for Martin Bain a lot, because I do still kind of believe Martin Bain had more difficult circumstances than what Jim Rodwell has. But Jim Rodwell is he seems to me like someone who is brought in because, do you want a nice big fat paycheck, mate? Aye, sure, go on, why not?
Absolutely. He is just Donald's puppet. He's his mouthpiece, isn't he? He just tells us whatever Donald wants to tell us.
Exactly, and I think he's there just to absolve and deflect from Donald in terms of blame. Like, you look at the interview he did with the club. I watched it, and by the way, at the club, the media team and people who put things out on Twitter are the people I really feel sorry for, because they're going to get hounded every time they put out a tweet. They're going to be ridiculously battered. And I understand fans' frustrations. We have every right to be frustrated. We're in League One for a third consecutive season. But like, when they did the interview with Jim Rodwell, didn't he say something along the lines of, with the season cards, we didn't really understand the passion of the fans and the way that they were going about, like, you've just been appointed as the CEO of one of the biggest clubs in England, and you didn't understand the passion of the fans. What the hell are you here for?
It was bollocks. He was saying that he didn't understand how important season cards were to the fans and the emotional connection between the club and the fans. And that's bollocks. Surely, why would someone pay 350 quid for something they don't give a shit about? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Like what you just said as well. You know, when you said the video about Enough's Enough Stuart Donald, and it was about the season, and you said something like, we're paying up to around about 300 quid. Bearing in mind, that's the lowest price.
I know, yeah.
There are going to be people who are paying 400, 500, maybe even probably more. Yeah. For the sake of a season card. So Jim, mate, hang on a minute. You're expecting people to pay at least £300, probably a couple of hundred more, for the sake of a stream that breaks every 2 minutes, that you only get one shitty camera angle from, and you're just getting it for home games only. Mm-hmm. And you wonder why people are pissed off.
Exactly.
What's the point? You know, like, I just look at Jim Rodwell and I just think, you know what it is? He maybe seems a nice bloke and all that, but he's not brought in to do that. He's supposed to be brought in to try and be a CEO and oversee things at the club. And it seems to me like they've just been found out and been like, oh, shit, these aren't stupid. They know that we're pulling the wool over their eyes.
Exactly. As much as Gary Medfin would like you to believe otherwise, he'd love for everyone to see Sunderland fans as stupid and uneducated. But I'm not going to get into that because I fucking hate it, man. I hate it.
Just remember, though, we hounded out our last 5 owners, apparently.
Of course we did. Because everyone wanted Niall Quinn out, didn't they? Everyone fucking hated him. Dickhead.
Yeah. And remember, how dare we want Ellis Short out, even though he took us from the Premier League to League One? Oh, yeah, he did an absolutely fantastic. I'm going to ask you a question here, because you probably see me and Sean Middleton debate this all the time.
Yeah.
The opinion of who's worse, Ellis Short or Stuart Donald?
Stuart Donald. You didn't like
it? No, I didn't. I still think the other way around.
No, of course, Ellis Short, he oversaw. He of course, everyone has their own opinion, and I've seen your point of view, and I completely understand that as well. But I just think with Ellis Short, with him, the reason I hate him, well, obviously I hate him both for different reasons, but with Ellis, he obviously, when we went down to the Championship, he could have done so much more. He could have done so much more, and he kind of let us rot with no investment, and he just allowed us to slide out of the league. Although that doesn't mean that squad should have gone down, because I still believe that squad was strong enough. But Ellis, I think...
People from SCFC Fan TV, if you're watching, Jamsarny agrees with me, just saying. I hate people who said that squad should have gone down, it shouldn't. But
it definitely shouldn't. I think especially if they were trying, which they clearly weren't, that squad was better than at least the bottom 3 that were in that league.
I don't get it. Like, you know, people say, oh, that squad wasn't good. Right, hang on. So bearing in mind they weren't here the whole season, but you had like Adam Matthews, Brian Oviedo, Lamin Kone, Tyus Brown, and Didier Ndong, Lee Catmull, Aidan McGeady, Callum McManaman, Lewis Graben, and a host of other ones that I'm probably forgetting.
Of course.
Don't anyone dare tell me that squad should have got relegated.
Absolutely. And don't get me wrong, I don't think that, although you have listed a number of decent players there, I don't think that we should have walked the league. By no means. I don't think we should have done. But to say the bottom of the league, in the manner in which we did, you know, pissed off. No one would have expected that. But anyway, back to Ellis Short.
Obviously, yeah.
No, you can kind of understand to an extent why he didn't give the money, because he was fed up. He'd been with us for God knows how long. Was it nearly a decade, whatever it was? And he would ploughed. I think he ploughed in upwards of 300, 400 million into the club. And I think because he's a businessman, and he did want the club to do well, and he let other people run the club whilst he just signed off the checks and give them the money. And it just wasn't handled well. His money wasn't handled well by the club. We end up slipping out to the Championship again. And I think by this point, he probably thought, I'd give you 400 odd million, and this is how you repay me. I can't be asked anymore. Do you know what I mean?
That bit's fair, definitely. I think my criticism is, I think that if you look at Sunderland Till I Die, the documentary, the first season, it was clear in the January transfer window we wanted money to try and make sure we give ourselves a chance of staying up. And even if Ellis Short put in 5-10 million, you know, we sold Pickford and Manoni for a total of 32 million, and we spent like 1.25.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, you know, and I understand the argument that, he was had enough, he wanted a bit of that money for himself. Well, he shouldn't have run the club so badly, then he wouldn't have had that situation in the first place.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I can get why you've said Stuart Donald, because ultimately, the way I look at it is, I felt I give Donald the main portion of the blame for that Championship relegation season, but I also think Simon Grayson and Chris Coleman were both useless and really should have done more of what they had. And it's the same with Stuart Donald. Like, Donald ultimately, it ultimately will fall down to him that we're still in League One.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, one of the biggest things for me, and it really pisses me off every single transfer window I see, two things. One, we're always reactive every single time in every window. Yeah. We never seem to show the initiative to go out and get somebody first before anyone else has a chance.
That's
true. And two, it's like, right, in the team, right, so we need a bit of pace. We need some athleticism. Shall we get it? Nah, we'll go and get George Dobson. No. And I don't want George Dobson. I just the first player that came into my head.
Course,
but like, I don't get this. Right, so you clearly know what we need. Go and get it. You should be able to attract players like that in League One. Why the fuck are you sitting there and just letting everything bypass you? And you wonder why we don't get promoted.
I think that's the most frustrating thing, particularly when you see teams who are arguably lesser than us and they're picking out all these players that I would quite happily have. You know, I would quite happily take, and they're picking out all that, and they're being proactive. They're getting these players who I think, we'd be cracking for us. We'll wait until the last week of the transfer window. And we're bringing in all these players who, it's just for the sake of it. We're bringing in bodies. Do you know what I mean? It's not even. It's not been well.
And although, like, you know, we well, put it this way, we're in a state now where we were in 2 years ago. We only had about 10, 11 players now. We're going to need to sign for about 13 or 14 just to make up a squad number. And that's the thing. Why have we allowed ourselves to get to this point? Like, we've both touched on John McLaughlin. Obviously, that was a joke the way that was done. You've got, who else? Like Ozturk, Baldwin, Robson, Carl Lafferty, and Watmore was fair enough because of the wages he was on, and obviously he was injury prone. You couldn't have met a nicer bloke in football than Duncan Watmore, but it was right. It was right to let him go.
Yes,
but I just don't get it. Like, Ozturk, I think, did fairly well. I think he did all right. But you look at players that are going to be available for free this summer. Bailey Wright's a good example. Like, Bailey Wright, we've seen how good Bailey Wright was. If we don't go for him and don't sign him, then I feel like I'll be done with football. I really, you know. However,
I actually had a look at. I know this is only a game, but I went on FIFA the other night, and I basically took out all the players that we have released, and I left with what we've got there. And I thought to myself, I'll see if I can try and work a team out of this. And I just thought, shit, we're in a lot more trouble than I thought we were. It's only until you see it how shallow the squad we've got. Do you know what I mean? Because it really is. We have one centre back at the club. I mean, and this can't be good for us because every season now, what we seem to be doing is starting afresh. It's a rebuild. We're assembling a new squad. We're making 8, 9, 10 signings, free signings, mind you, every single season. And we're assembling a new squad. Whereas if you look at the rest of the league, although they might not be as great in quality, you might say, they're only buying 2 or 3 players, maybe letting go one, because we have they still have a unit and they have a base of a team and a squad there. But you can't assemble a squad or a team spirit over a transfer window. That doesn't make sense, and it doesn't happen. It needs time to gel.
Yeah. The biggest, like I said, though, the fact we're in that position and we're going to need to sign so many players. Like, apparently, I was talking to one of my mates about this, and they were saying that Parkinson apparently wants players from like Championship and obviously to some small extent the Prem who are out of contracts. Yeah. But if that's the case, we're not going to be waiting another month to sign players, and it's more. You know, Marcus Maddison is someone who's been mentioned to death, and I think probably will be continue to be until we sign him eventually. But even if we sign him at 50 years old as a caretaker guy, I don't know. But you know, it just for me, it's blatantly obvious. He's someone who seems to be a Sunderland fan, and people had to say, "Oh, what's his attitude problem like?" Tell you what, though, he wouldn't shirk at playing for Sunderland, though. I'm pretty confident.
But he is someone who strikes me as a bit of a playboy, someone who does like his money, because I have seen Peterborough's their owner, he does a podcast on YouTube. Oh, he did an interview with himself kind of thing on YouTube, and he was speaking about the whole situation with Marcus, and he was saying that he wanted to leave Peterborough. He didn't want to play for Peterborough anymore, but he was rejecting contracts that were almost triple his wage at Peterborough from teams in the Championship. He was rejecting them all. You know what I mean? So he clearly is someone who wants money, and we don't have that. That's something we don't have.
Yeah, maybe. I would like to see us at least attempt for him. I don't know, I get the impression, and maybe I'm being naive and hanging on to this. If Madison claims to be a Sunderland fan and he really wants to play for us, then if we go for him, we'll see how much money means to him there or not. But yeah, look, but if we don't get Madison, fair enough. But I want to see by now, we should be in agents and players' ears. I understand. I completely understand not signing players now because you're going to be giving players contracts and giving them money and salaries and everything when they're not going to be training or playing football.
Yeah,
I understand. But couldn't we agree a contract where, okay, you have to understand we can't pay you right now, but the second pre-season starts and we start preparing, your wages will be like straight in your account or something. Mm-hmm. You know, couldn't we? I mean, we might be doing that behind the scenes. I don't know, but we probably won't be because of Sunderland. So I just. Yeah, it really annoys us. I joke with my mates all the time. I said, right, Sunderland's recruitment strategy must be, right, are you a good player? Yep. Nope, don't want you. Are you shit? Yes, deal. You've got a 2-year contract. Or, right, okay, you want 7,500, right, we'll give you 2,500. No, I want 7. Okay, 5? No, we'll give you 2,750.
Proper idiots.
It feels like it. You know, the club at the moment just feels, I don't know about you, it feels really apathetic at the moment. It really feels like there's no direction.
Yeah, and I think I made a tweet recently. I think it was just after the whole Bally Mum thing. It's got to the point that, you know, even though there's no football, you know, they're still giving us reasons to be disappointed and giving us reasons to be pissed off. And it's got to the point where
you don't have the energy to be pissed off.
Yeah, I don't have it anymore. That's why I think halfway, like the majority of this podcast, and we're talking about all the shit that someone's going through, I'm laughing and I'm smiling because I'm getting to the point where I just can't be bothered being pissed off.
Yeah.
I'm wanting to play it. Surely you must feel the same.
I do kind of, I do. Yeah, I mean, don't get us wrong, I do still kind of feel pissed off because I believe Sunderland could be competent if they want to be. But I'm making jokes about this. Oh, right, you want 7,500, we'll give you 1,000 and a Cadbury's chocolate bar or something. You know, if I don't laugh or cry, like that I don't think some people at the club, I don't get me wrong, I probably do feel for them because they're being stuck in a mess that some people at the club will probably want to see us excel and do really well. But but the thing is, everything's such a shambles at the moment that it just doesn't feel like there's any sense of direction. It doesn't feel like, what's the purpose or the plan of it? Like, surely if you're going to have a takeover, for example, you're going to have at least another 2.5 months before football realistically is going to be played again.
Yeah,
so you know, but then, I mean, I don't know about you, I don't think we'll get taken over. I think we'll be stuck with Donald Lethbin for next season, and it just doesn't fill you with much confidence, does it?
No, especially with everything that's going on, there isn't really a market for buying football clubs, I wouldn't think. But you never know. You never know. We can always cross our fingers and hope. But Michael, that is where we're going to leave it. It's been absolutely brilliant speaking to you, and it's been an honour.
No, thank you. For first guest, I'll take that as a lovely milestone. Get us back on when you're at guest number 100 or something.
This might be the only one we ever do, Michael.
I don't. I think there'll be people interested for more of these.
Okay, so if you have enjoyed the video, please hit the like button for me. It'd be massively, massively appreciated. Of course, go and follow and subscribe to Michael's channel over on YouTube and subscribe to this channel, of course. So for now, you take care and stay
jammy.